Hey guys, Crystal Thompson here for Simon Says Stamp. I'm so excited to show you guys my easy floral cards we are creating with the newest October kit called Thankful Flowers. It's a beautiful kit with so much fall inspiration, and we are going to be doing some watercolor with watercolor markers on this gorgeous stamp set. You're going to need a piece of vellum that I have pre-cut, and then you need a little Misty stamp positioner, some gold embossing powder along with some embossing and watermark ink. Of course, you're going to need some watercolor markers. I'm using the Zig Clean Color and watercolor brushes. We are going to begin by stamping the image onto our watercolor paper. I like to use a Misty when doing some watercolor paper because watercolor paper does seem to have some texture, and I want to be sure that I get all those little details and all the little items of that flower onto the ridges of the watercolor cardstock. So I'm going to stamp it twice with my embossing powder and with my embossing ink, and then I'm going to come in with my gold embossing powder and doing it in quarter sections. I'm going to cover the entire flower and make sure that I get it all. If you find that you missed a spot, what I like to do, especially when you're using a stamp positioner such as the Misty, is that you can heat emboss, come back and just stamp the areas again that you had missed, remove some of that extra heat emboss powder where you don't need it, and just re-emboss where you missed a spot, and you don't have to go and redo the whole thing. So we're going to go ahead and heat set that flower. In the meantime, we are going to come in and heat emboss the You Couldn't Be More Awesome, which is really fun sentiment. I love the boldness of it. And we're going to do this onto that vellum. Again, we're going to stamp with the heat embossing ink, and then cover it with the gold embossing powder. Once that is done, we are going to begin to watercolor our flowers. So we are going to grab a selection of fall colors for this beautiful floral image, and we're going to begin coloring those inner parts of the flower, and this is going to be just a regular bright yellow. We're going to grab a water brush, and I'm using just a tiny little one that has a very fine tip because this one does seem to have a lot of details. I'm going to draw some of that watercolor onto my acrylic block and being able to grab that color there. And this is really fun when watercoloring the flowers. I'm going to speed up the process of how I colored this entire image because I'm going to show you the full process. We're going to begin with a darker red, doing all the shadows, and then coming in with our water brush and really grabbing that color from the shadow and moving up to the petals of the flower. I absolutely love this technique of watercoloring because it makes it, one, super easy, and two, you get a beautiful gradient on the petals, making them really realistic and just absolutely elegant, and honestly, very, very easy. So I'm going to continue coloring, again adding shadows and then coming in and watercoloring up to the top of that petal. One of the tips that I can give you when you are doing some of this watercolor with a marker is that you can come in with a whole different shade and add more color that is not the same, and you get an expertise, a very advanced look to your watercoloring. I'm going to keep it quite simple, just doing these very beautiful fall colors, but I'm going to be using two colors for the leaves, and you'll see here shortly how I did that. So moving to a different color family, I'm going to be sure my brush is nice and clean. I'm going to start with that yellow tip on all those leaves, coming in with an olive green at the base, and then coloring the whole leaf together. And that olive green is going to mix with that yellow, and it's going to give it just a little more realistic. And this is what I was talking about by adding a different color to your flowers or your leaves. So again, I'm going to add a brighter green to that yellow, and it's going to give it a beautiful fall look leaf. We're going to place our watercolor cardstock directly onto our card base, and then using the awesome Tim Holtz Tonic Studio mini scissors included in your October kit. We are going to trim around. So this card is going to have a very pretty and very elegant floral edge. So when you open it, you'll see some of the backing of the card base, but that's okay. I really love how thick this is. It looks professional level and it's absolutely stunning. And honestly, it was pretty darn quick. So we're going to continue on to trim around, and these scissors are my new favorite. I did not own them prior to having this kit, and it made fussy cutting super, super easy. And guys, right here, I'm cutting 2 layers of cardstock, watercolor cardstock, Nina 110, and you still get a beautiful round edge, and you can see that. We're going to move on to the sentiment. So that I have the "You Couldn't Be More Awesome" that we had heat embossed in gold. And again, I'm going to use my awesome scissors, again included in the kit, and we're going to do some round onto those words there at the end. So it just looks very round, very clean, so you don't have any sharp edges. And like I said, these scissors really make it super easy. So this is a huge value included in the kit. The stamp is beautiful, the cardstock's beautiful, and then the scissors are an absolute plus. So I'm going to finish up cutting this up, and then we can place it onto our gorgeous card. So I've added a piece of foam adhesive on the back just in the Be More because it kind of hides within the cardstock. To finish up, I'm going to be adding some beautiful droplets. These are just some stuff that I had on hand, and it's a variation of colors. You have like a honey and a clear and a white pearl. And I'm just going to mix all of these onto the edges of the flowers, not putting any of these on the interior of the card base where it folds, just on the outer part of the flowers on the left, and maybe some right in the inside of the floral image. So this does it for our first card, guys. I'm going to finish up. We have a second card, again continuing on our theme with our watercolor markers. I can't wait to show you. Okay, number 2, I have 2 gorgeous cards. This next one, we are walking away from the fall, but coloring in a whole different range of colors. For this, you're going to need some white embossing powder, a range of bright pinks and purples, the beautiful Thank You flower stamp set. So we're going to be using the Thank You and the flowers. I have a piece of watercolor cardstock, and this one's trimmed much, much smaller. This is going to be framed within that card base. We're going to do some heat embossing. So we're going to stamp it with our heat emboss ink, and then we're going to come in with our Simon Says white, going to cover the entire thing with this white powder, and then we are going to heat set it. So I did do that center part, and it's going to kind of cut out some of the flowers. Next, we're going to do some heat embossing of the Thank You sentiment onto some vellum, and we're doing the thank you. And I'm going to be doing some wonky lines to the sentiment. I didn't want to have just a regular rectangle sentiment, and I didn't want to use dies because I like to keep it with very simple supplies. So we're going to heat emboss the thank you, and watch how fun and how bright this pops up. And it's going to look really cool when we place this over our watercolor image. So I can do a little close up and a little speed up. We're going to start with the centers of our flowers doing a bright yellow. Then we're going to move on to clean off our brush. So when you're moving off, be sure that you clean off your brush pretty good. We're going to move on to the leaves. And this one's a little harder to color, to be honest with you, just because it is so white. And I just love how it pops up. It kind of reminds me of one of those kids coloring books, like, oh, reveal color. And so we're totally doing some reveal color on this gorgeous white embossing. And I really love how the white resists that watercolor, and it's really sharp, and it's really, really pretty. We're going to move on to doing some of that shadowing with this hot pink. It's kind of a pink purple. And if you're wondering what markers I'm using the Zig Clean Color markers, and I will have everything tagged down below as always, but just showing you how easy. And I'm actually not taking a ton of time to do my shadows. I really want to add this color and reveal where everything's at, and then later on come in and add the shadows there at the bases of the petals if need be. Gonna switch out colors. This main flower is going to be a bright purple, And with this being the main focus, I am gonna add that shadow and then grab that color and again moving out towards the edges of the petals, and be sure you cover the entire thing because you know the edge of the petal has those little details and it kind of does seem like it's cut off. So we're going to move on to a blue. And when you're looking for color combinations, I love to look at Pinterest and just typing color combinations, and love seeing what else other people have come up put together. And you have like home decor, and you can really be inspired by anything. So I have my sentiment strip from the vellum that I had cut into an irregular rectangle, and I just thought it made it really fun. And then for finishing touch, I am adding some pretty pink posh jewels, and these are within a gold, and one side has gold and one side has like a diamond, and it's just really pretty, and it's gonna embellish the card yet keep it super clean and super simple. So that does it, guys. We created 2 beautiful watercolor cards under 12 minutes. And we needed very basic supplies, and of course the gorgeous October Simon Says stamped Thankful Flowers card kit. Thank you, guys. This is Crystal Thompson. I appreciate you sticking around. Be sure to stick around some more. I have some more videos for you. Click subscribe so I can keep getting you some of these videos and tutorials. Have an amazing day. Bye.